It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Our top story. French far-right leader Marine Le Pen is banned from running in a presidential race. She was tipped to win after being convicted of embezzlement.
Is this the end for Marine Le Pen? She started the day as the favourite to be France's next president. She ends it as a convicted criminal, barred from even taking part in the election. Her ambitions in tatters.
A major incident is declared in Birmingham over ongoing bin strikes that have brought mountains of rubbish to the streets and giant rats. A miraculous rescue in Myanmar as the death toll from Friday's earthquake rises and aid agencies struggle to reach the worst affected areas.
He hasn't been found guilty, he's been accused.
The makers of Adolescence meet the Prime Minister, but can the Netflix sensation inspire a sea change in online safety? We hear from the European leader and recent golf partner of Donald Trump, who thinks the US president is running out of patience with Vladimir Putin. Plus, back to Earth with a bang. The two astronauts stranded in orbit for 9 months speak for the first time since their return. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Good evening. She was the far-right figurehead that opinion polls had as the favourite to win France's next presidential election. Tonight, Marine Le Pen's political career lies in ruins after a Paris court convicted the National Rally leader of embezzlement and barred her from running in that election in 2 years' time. Ms Le Pen said this evening that she was innocent and would appeal what she called a politicised ruling to block her presidential bid. With our first report tonight, here's our Europe correspondent, Adam Parsons.
Strident, confident and unapologetic, Marine Le Pen's brand of politics had made her the front-runner to become France's next president. Now that ambition has been dashed. She's been banned from running in the next election. Le Pen had strolled into a Paris courtroom today, charged with helping to embezzle millions of euros. She stormed out early, knowing she'd been found guilty, bristling with anger.
Rendez-vous compte.
Do you realise that on this fateful day, Monday the 31st of March 2025, such a critical day, what this represents for our democracy and for our country, when millions of French people will be denied by a court judge without any possible recourse, the candidate who was until today the favourite to win the presidential elections? Surely that must shock and horrify all those who respect democracy and the rule of law.
Le Pen was convicted of embezzling money here at the European Parliament, diverting funds earmarked for supporting the work of MEPs into propping up the finances of her own party. The judge said she'd been at the heart of this system. But for some, even her political rivals, it is worrying that a court can decide who runs for president. Prime Minister François Bayrou called the decision troubling. Is this the end for Marine Le Pen? She started the day as the favourite to be France's next president. She ends it as a convicted criminal, barred from even taking part in the election. Her ambitions in tatters. Already, accusations that France's political establishment had engineered this verdict to keep her out of power. Elon Musk claimed the radical left had chosen to abuse the legal system, while the Russian spokesman Dmitry Peskov said more and more European capitals are going down the path of trampling democratic norms. But there are many others who see this as gratifying proof that nobody is above the law.
I don't think she was surprised, since she left before the verdict was announced. So I read it as an admission of guilt. So there you have it. Justice takes its course. That's very good.
Well, listen, I'm delighted. Well, I'm just afraid that it'll victimise her and people will think, oh, poor woman, she doesn't deserve this. Anyway, that's it. Anyway, I think she deserves it, and it's great.
Her place at the top of the National Rally Party likely to fall to this man, 29-year-old Jordan Bardella, popular with young voters but lacking Le Pen's enormous fame and name. She will appeal. The party will contest and fight this decision. But Le Pen is wounded like never before.
And Adam joins me live now from Paris. Adam, you spoke of unease about this ruling in your report. Is there a chance that it could make Marine Le Pen's cause more popular, even if she can't stand herself?
Absolutely. I think that has happened. I think right now Marine Le Pen is probably better known around the world than at any point in even her turbulent political career, because she's had this outpouring of support from people who are famous, I think, for their views about the European Union, whether that is the Kremlin or Viktor Orban in Hungary, who tweeted, "Je suis marine." But also, she's had an absolute wave of support from Washington. We mentioned Elon Musk, but also Donald Trump Jr., who said that Marine Le Pen has been jailed. Well, actually, she hasn't. And even the State Department spokesperson talking about this word lawfare and comparing the treatment of Marine Le Pen with that of Donald Trump. So there is certainly global support for her, as well as a lot of people who will say she has gone through a judicial process and she has been found to be a criminal. I think this is a picture of the febrile political atmosphere that politicians are working in around the world. And in France, we are seeing the same thing, a division between those who believe that Marine Le Pen has become a proof that no one is above the law, and those who think that, frankly, she's been stitched up by the establishment, to the extent that the woman who led the tribunal, the president of the tribunal that found her guilty, is now having to rely on police protection here in Paris. Marine Le Pen will appeal. There is a path that could mean that she does end up standing for election in 2027. But on the very day when, in theory, so many politicians would feel that their reputation would be left in tatters, in fact, her profile and perhaps the support for her is higher than ever.
Adam, thank you. Well, to Birmingham now, where the council has declared a major incident over the ongoing bin strike, which it estimates has left 17,000 tonnes of waste uncollected around the city. The government said this evening that it stands ready to respond to any requests for help from the city. A Birmingham MP told the House of Commons of the horrors faced by one of their constituents, while the Conservatives accused Labour of failure in local government.
The Birmingham bin strike has meant many of my constituents haven't had their bins collected in weeks. And this week, my constituent wrote to me to say that they had been bitten by a rat.
Almost every area is plagued by overflowing bins, rats the size of cats, and opportunistic fly tippers exploiting the chaos to turn open spaces into dumping grounds. This, the reality of Labour in local government.
Well, Sky's Alice Porter is in Birmingham for us tonight. And Alice, judging by your surroundings, no end in sight for this crisis at the moment. But what are the different sides saying tonight?
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty horrendous sight. I mean, this street is something we're seeing across the whole of Birmingham, and it really gives a sense of just how bad this problem is. 17,000 tonnes of litter is just across many residential streets, including this one. And as you can see behind me, in some places it's so bad that residents can't even make their way through it. Residents who've been speaking to me say they don't let their children out at the moment. The smell is also pervasive. A lot of the food waste is just rotting in the streets because of the bad weather, and such the concern for public health that Birmingham City Council say they declared this major incident because of the concerns around public health. Now, this row has been actually going on since January. There was intermittent strike action that was taking place, but that's really began as an all-out strike a few weeks ago. So much of this rubbish has not been collected for a number of weeks now, and this has been an ongoing dispute with the Unite Union. Now, Birmingham City Council hope by declaring this major incident, it means that they can free up 35 additional crews crews and vehicles to go street to street, streets like this, and pick up the waste. But part of their focus will also be on making sure that some of their trucks can leave the depot and come and collect it, because they say what's been happening is striking workers who are on the picket line. They have been walking deliberately, slowly in front of these trucks as they try and leave the depot, making it unable to try and pick up this rubbish. Of course, Unite, who are representing the bin workers, they say very much that this could be resolved financially. They are arguing that there are many workers who are going to be receiving pay cuts of up to £8,000. They also say that some critical roles in relation to health and safety are being cut, and that's why they are striking. And it seems to be there is no resolution to the situation. The government say they are monitoring the situation. They say it's a local issue for now, but say they will offer support in the future if it's needed.
OK, Alice, thank you very much. Rescue workers in Myanmar are continuing to search for survivors after the devastating earthquake that shook the country on Friday. State media says the number killed in the disaster has now passed 2,000, with fears it will continue to rise. Our Asia correspondent Cordelia Lynch reports.
This is Sky Villa condominium in Mandalay. Several buildings totally flattened. It is an apocalyptic scene. And yet, from this massive destruction, survivors emerge. Here, a pregnant woman pulled out on a cable. Inside, a man is also trying all he can to hang on to life, wedged in a tiny crack. But local people have told Sky News as many as 300 people may have died here. Among those missing, Ko Lin's sister. Like so many, he's distraught and desperate. These images may give him hope, though. 2 teenagers huddled with their grandmother, bloodied but alive, filming themselves for their families in case they didn't make it. Their father assumed they hadn't. He even asked others to help find their bodies. But miraculously, they pulled through. It's feared many thousands have not survived this disaster in Myanmar, though. Here, 270 monks were taking a religious exam when the earthquake hit. 100 are still missing. 60 mosques have also been damaged and destroyed. Places of worship obliterated. Min U tells us more than 300 people were inside praying, many of them teenagers. Rescue teams have been very slow to reach the worst-hit areas. The ruling junta tightly controlling their movements, leaving survivors to do a lot of the harrowing, heavy lifting. And even in this desperate hour for a country at war, when the military needs to drop aid, elsewhere in Myanmar, it is still dropping bombs. A nation on the edge, plunged into further trauma. Cordelia Lynch, Sky News.
The Prime Minister has said the hit Netflix series Adolescence shines a torch on the rise of misogyny in society. Sir Keir Starmer today met the creators of the show about a teenage boy accused of murdering a female classmate to discuss ways to tackle the issue. Our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer reports.
Is she dead then?
Why would you ask her?
It is this year's most talked about TV show. Adolescence, the story of a 13-year-old boy arrested for the murder of a young girl, hitting a nerve globally.
He hasn't been found guilty, he's been accused.
Holding up a mirror to the rise in violent and sexist social media content that's being served up to teenagers. Now the most watched UK title ever for Netflix. But the focus for its creators on a different audience. Writer Jack Thorne's drama prompting an invite from Downing Street. having watched the Prime Minister wanting to be seen as listening. Creators of the hit show, charities and young people invited to discuss some of the issues raised.
This isn't something new which parents and children are discovering for the first time. It's very real and raw because it is shining a torch on something which we all know has been there and growing for some time.
Motivated in part by exposing the manosphere, a culture which promotes masculinity and misogyny. Writer Jack Thorne now all too aware that politicians might want to piggyback off the show's popularity.
If it was about our show, you know, our fictional show, then we'd have a problem. But it's not. It's about other people expressing being given the opportunity to have conversations that they haven't had before and that they should have had.
Not only have issues raised in Adolescence been brought up at Prime Minister's questions, the Department for Education has since issued guidance to teachers on how to spot students who might be engaging in misogynistic content. On top of that, there's an initiative to have it shown in as many secondary schools as possible for free. The ripple effect of all this has been quite remarkable. What do teenagers make of it all? Parents in panic mode. Is that a thing in your house now because of this?
I mean, I wouldn't say panic, but it raises a few questions, yeah.
We gathered a group of sixth formers and year 10s in West London to find out. The misogyny element of the story, do you think it is realistic?
Many boys, they don't grow up with good role models, so what they see online, it's not their fault, but they can, easily get, manipulated by what they see.
Do you think it's beneficial to show this as a drama in schools?
I think it's really important because obviously with social media, it's so normalised and I just feel like it's not really addressed in schools. We don't really talk about misogyny and just casual misogyny especially.
Do you think something does need to be done though in terms of what young people are looking at?
Yeah, social media is very unfiltered, especially for young boys. The things they could be seeing, they'll see and think it's right. They can be indoctrinated by the constant things that are coming up on their feed. And if they look at the comments and see people are agreeing with it, they can feel validated.
Misogynistic videos and all of it shouldn't be on people's feed, but then again, it is how you see it and interpret it and use it in real life.
The eye-opening drama shining a light on the challenges facing young people and parents. The hardest part now, of course, is knowing what society does next. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
The president of Finland has suggested that Donald Trump is running out of patience with Vladimir Putin. Alexander Stubb gained a rare insight into Mr. Trump's thinking over the weekend after playing a round of golf with him. He told Sky News today that he believes the US president could impose what he called colossal sanctions against Russia if Mr. Putin fails to strike a ceasefire deal with Ukraine. Our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, spoke to the Finnish president.
Fresh from a game of golf with Donald Trump, Finland's president in Downing Street, with news of a swing in the US president's mood over Vladimir Putin. It was during a round together over the weekend, he says, that President Trump shared his feelings about the Russian leader and his attitude to peace in Ukraine.
Impatient, that's for sure. And, we were talking a lot about the ceasefire and the frustrations he had that Russia was not committing to it. If there was a pendulum of trust and distrust, certainly Russian activity in the past few weeks has proven that we're moving more towards the distrust side of things.
Alexander Stubb has Donald Trump's ear, but he's a hawk on Russia and had this advice, he said, in between the teeing off and putting.
I would be very distrustful, and my message to President Trump when he asked, can I trust Putin, was, no, you can't.
What did he say in return?
Well, we'll leave those things out on the golf course.
Sure, but do you think, are you getting the impression from him he's re-evaluating at least the Russian leader?
I'm getting the impression that he's analysing the situation.
Allies like Keir Starmer, who President Stubb is here to visit, will welcome a firmer line from Donald Trump on Russia. But will it make a difference? The US president was sounding irritated last night about Putin.
Some of the things that were said over the last day or two having to do with Zelensky, because when he considers Zelensky not credible, he's supposed to be making a deal with him, whether you like him or you don't like him. So I wasn't happy with that.
President Stubb hopes Donald Trump will now act and put pressure on Vladimir Putin.
I think we need a colossal amount of sanctions on the 20th of April if the Russians don't abide by the ceasefire.
And are you confident that President Trump is going to apply that colossal pressure?
I am fairly confident that he will do that.
Hopeful or confident? Is it going to happen?
More confident than hopeful.
Is there anything left that can be thrown at Putin that will make him change?
There are many things that are left. I mean, the Americans are talking about oil prices, serious caps on oil. The Russian economy is hurting, and that's why we need to continue the pressure. And we can make the sanctions conditional, at least in the sense that if there's no ceasefire, we increase the pressure.
While Presidents Trump and Stubb were playing golf over the weekend, Vladimir Putin was sending yet more drones to attack Ukraine. He's met diplomacy with delaying tactics. It'll take a lot more than reports of Donald Trump having a change of heart to force him to agree to a ceasefire. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is set to press ahead with a huge raft of tariffs on Wednesday, despite turbulence on the US stock markets and pleas from America's allies. Downing Street says the UK is likely to be hit, along with other countries, even as talks to agree what's being called a UK-US economic prosperity deal continue. Our US correspondent Mark Stone reports from West Virginia.
Donald Trump's blueprint for America looks something like this. Big industry, power and might. Made in America, made by Americans.
How many people work here? It's 1,100 and some.
We're inside a metal plant in rural West Virginia. It is one of the largest facilities of its kind in the world. Aluminium. Aluminum, they call it here.
There's a lot of power, there's a lot of force coming down on that slab.
Heated, molded, transformed from massive blocks into coils and sheets. It rolls through here to customers far and wide.
So space, aerospace, transportation, general engineering products, military products.
Well, you do get a real sense here of the president's vision, but expanding all this, that is a true challenge.
Because the competition here is cheaper aluminium from overseas, from China mostly. It is a familiar story, and it's what's behind Donald Trump's core tariff plans.
We believe in free and fair trade. And the point is that trade has been free but not fair in aluminum.
The boss of the multinational firm that runs this plant says tariffs are blunt but necessary.
There's been massive growth in the capacity installed in China, but a lot of that has been allowed by illegal subsidies. So what it means is that overall trade of aluminum products is broken as an international system. It is clear that not all countries, not all products are unfairly traded. But there is a history of Chinese production making its way through third countries into the US. So a blunt, approach was required.
Right next to the aluminium plant, a reminder of what once was. All that aluminium being squashed and squeezed in that plant down there is sourced from abroad these days. And so the ultimate ambition is to reopen smelters like this, to make the aluminium here in America, make the whole process American. But that requires massive investment and a constant supply of reliable energy. From the factory, the Ohio River still carries what's left of America's heavy industry.
Living in West Virginia, we're big on coal.
Through towns like Parkersburg, not the thriving place it used to be.
Obama, he shut down mines and ruined a lot of people's lives.
I think it'll bring jobs back. Definitely bring jobs back to the U.S.
He's putting the tariffs on the other countries, bringing their things in, and then that way, it equals out.
I'm for Republican, but I'm not exactly aligned with Donald Trump.
The Trump tariff blueprint is full of jeopardy. If it fails, it will be here, places like this, again, that will be hit hardest.
No politician with millions or billions of dollars cares about me or you. Nobody.
Mark Stone, Sky News, in West Virginia.
Representatives from more than 40 countries, as well as tech company officials, assembled in Westminster today for a summit on illegal immigration. The Prime Minister acknowledged public anger about past failures to tackle the problem, adding that he was angry himself, even as small boat crossings have continued in large numbers on his watch. Our political correspondent Tamara Cohen reports.
When are you going to stop the boats, Prime Minister? Channel crossings are rising. Are you doing...
Burning questions for a Prime Minister who has promised to tackle illegal migration.
We need to do more of it to get the countries together today.
He says it will require global solutions. But getting results is also crucial for him domestically.
It undermines our ability to control who comes here. And that makes people angry. It makes me angry, frankly, because it's unfair on ordinary working people who pay the price, from the cost of hotels to our public services struggling under the strain.
This is what the government wants us to see more of. A raid on Afghan suspected people smugglers in Britain in conjunction with Belgian police. Attending the talks in London were ministers from the countries people flee, like Iraq and Vietnam, the places they transit and the destinations they end up. But how do you deter smugglers from using new routes?
Well, we're substantially increasing returns and enforcement because, frankly, the rules need to be respected and enforced. They haven't been for far too long. And we're doing this alongside this much stronger action against organised immigration crime.
With illegal migrants still coming to the UK in record numbers, the Conservatives say Labour have failed.
30,000 crossings, illegal channel crossings since the election, up by 31%. And this year so far, 2025, has been the worst year on record. Keir Starmer has no credibility on this issue.
The Prime Minister told delegates here you can't be defeatist about tackling migration like terrorism or drug trafficking. But while the reasons people undertake these perilous journeys are often beyond his control, the impacts are clearly felt in many communities. This four-star hotel in southwest London used to host weddings, but was taken over by the council to house asylum seekers, dividing opinion in the local area.
The fabric of the society has changed here. You go to central Kingston, it's not the Kingston that was 30, 40 years ago.
They have to be housed somewhere until such time as, the controls are improved.
They just get off the boat. You don't know who's coming into wherever they land.
Labour promised to end the use of these hotels, but have admitted it won't happen soon, and voters will judge whether they see any real difference. Tamara Cohen, Sky News.
Sir Ed Davey has told Sky News he would not buy a Tesla and called for tariffs to be placed on the car company. Speaking at the launch of his party's local election campaign, where he tried his hand at hobby horsing and stated his ambition for the Lib Dems to become the second largest party in local government, Sir Ed was critical of Tesla chief executive Elon Musk.
This is a man who's squatting in the White House, the richest man in the world, and he says horrible things. He backs extremely right-wing parties and does so much damage to America, let alone to anyone else. And I think by saying we should have tariffs on Teslas, not only is it pushing back against Donald Trump, but it's making Elon Musk hurt. I think that's a good thing. I think it's good and smart strategy.
Plans for new sentencing guidelines for offenders from minority backgrounds have been delayed following a row over claims of a two-tier justice system. The move comes after the Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, said she would introduce legislation to block the changes. Now, astronauts Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore were only supposed to be on the International Space Station for a week, but ended up staying for around 9 months after technical problems left them stranded. While they were there, they became unwittingly embroiled in a political row, with Donald Trump blaming Joe Biden for their predicament. Today, they spoke to the media for the first time since their return earlier this month. Our science editor, Tom Clark, reports.
It was one of the most political and certainly longest sagas in space history, but the ending couldn't have been more perfect. After 9 months in space, Butch and Suni were weak, leaving their capsule. But 2 weeks on looked healthy and refreshed, recounting their trip home to the world's media.
It's thrilling. It's amazing. I remember thinking about the structure of the capsule and the stresses that it was taking, that was ongoing as the drogues came out, and the whole capsule starts shaking and twisting, and then the parachutes open up, and then you're like, I've said it many times, there's not a better feeling returning from space that the parachutes open and work.
Let's go forward into Starliner, where there was a little bit of action the other day.
Being an astronaut is about preparation, and it shone through when the awkward question of whether they were ever stuck in space came up.
We had a plan, right? The plan went way off for what we had planned, but because we're in human spaceflight, we prepare for any number of contingencies.
We came, as Butch has mentioned before, prepared, and we were ready to do that pivot and be part of that bigger thing that's not just about us. There's a huge group of people who are looking at the whole program and understanding how and what was the best time and way to get us back home. We knew that, and we were ready to wait until that decision was made.
Not quite how President Trump saw it. He blamed their situation, without evidence, on his predecessor.
You shouldn't have been up there so long. The most incompetent president in our history has allowed that to happen to you, but this president won't let it happen.